Hey there! Today I want to take you on a journey exploring Hypha's upcoming DAO tools. DAOs are a new organization structure that's helping groups come together and coordinate in different ways to achieve common goals while stewarding common assets. All that means is these are tools that help us coordinate. Now there's a lot of different things that humanity's trying to coordinate and do right now, whether that's building new types of economic systems that are regenerative for our planet, or just new ways of organizing global teams and communities across the globe. That's a lot of globes there, to come together and share a common idea, like reimagining what the nation state might look like, or just new organization structures for coming together to do marketing or storytell or any other of the things that we're out here trying to do. So long story short, these are tools that help us coordinate, and I'm going to give you an overview today of exactly how these tools help us do that. So what you're looking at is an overview of one organization. Now what's really great about the tools that we're about to launch, or we might have already launched them by the time you're watching this, is up here in the top left is you can see all the different organizations that you could be a part of. So similar to Discord, where you can be a part of a bunch of different servers. In the Hypha world, you could be a part of a bunch of different organizations, holding different roles, getting paid, holding their tokens, etc., participating in their governance and all of that. So actually, before I kick any of this off, let me just go through the process of creating an organization. So you can come down here, click Create Your Do. So first you give your organization a name and a description. Then after you've done that, this is something else that Hypha's been working on that is, we believe, critical to supporting all of our movements. And that's creating templates for different types of organizations. So right now when we're exploring DAOs, exploring decentralized governance, we're kind of tripping and falling our way into this new world, so to speak, because we haven't been thoughtful about creating different templates for organization structures that are radically different from the ones that we're leaving behind. So what tends to happen is we're entering these new DAO tools, these new playground of exponential possibilities. We're bringing way too many of the structures from the old paradigm that we're not wanting to be a part of anymore into our new paradigms because there's nothing to fall back on. And sometimes, in fact, most of the time, groups that are coming together to do something, their main purpose isn't to figure out governance and how they decide and what's their organization structure. Like, a lot of groups coming together aren't organization designers. They're, wanting to set up local food systems or wanting to do book clubs or, they have a whole bunch of different purposes that is different than designing their organization. So this is why providing templates is so critical, so that groups can come in here and step into a new type of organization structure without having to go through a multi-year process of designing something completely new from scratch. But what's great about the DAO tools is it's all about helping us experiment and create new types of systems. So even if you pick one template, they're designed to change. So you as a group, you can use the policy process for coming up with new types of rules for your organization. And you can continue to evolve it. So the templates are here to just help us get started in our coordination journey. So you can pick a template. And then you get to go down and design what the rest of your organization looks like. So you get to create your own utility token if you want. So a utility token you can use for maybe tracking contributions to your organization. So people are showing up, and let's say you are doing a local community and you want to do a village process or a village project with this DAO tools. So let's say someone has land. They have 100,000 acres that they want to give to this project. How do you account for that contribution? You can do it with this utility token. You could say, okay, you gave us 100,000 acres worth, $100 million or whatever. We're going to give you 100 million tokens for that contribution. Similarly, people can come with equipment and say, hey, this is all the equipment that I want to bring, and it's worth $100,000. Great, we can issue you 100,000 of these utility tokens. And you can continue to do this process as people contribute to the project, whether they're bringing their time to physically come and support the community, or if they're bringing different forms of capital like equipment or networks or money itself. So this is how you can also take an investment and reflect back a token. So you're able to create tokens that can do a lot of different things. Maybe this token governs access to the community. Maybe this token, you have to use it and burn 1 token every day you want to stay at the village project. The playground rather for designing tokens is infinite. And Hypha just gives you the possibility of creating your own token and deciding how many there's going to be, what is it going to be called, etc. Coming up next is you get to design your voice token. So the voice token can be different from your governance token. You can decide to have them the same. Oops, excuse me here. You can decide to have them the same, or you can decide to have them act completely different, which we actually kind of recommend because it helps our communities get away from oligarchies. Meaning you can design your voice token to have all sorts of different behavior. If you want to learn more about that design space, go back and watch episode 1 here where we get more into the possibilities of redesigning governance. In short form, this is where you're able to create your token. Next up is your treasury token, and this is how you're going to do payments. So maybe you have a US dollar stablecoin you want to use, or a euro coin, or some other types of payment tokens, which might be different from your utility token, right? So this just allows you to have a different type of payment token if you want to do that. Okay, so you've designed your tokens. The next step is you come in here and you design your launch team, you set up their account names, you give them email invites, etc. Then you're going to design your first compensation roles. So this is where we're going to come in and set some of the main starting points for how your organization might compensate people who are contributing to the project. So you can come in and say, what is the standard multiplier for utility tokens versus treasury tokens versus voice tokens? If you want voice and value to be exactly the same, you can set your voice token multiplier to be the same as the utility token multiplier. If you want every dollar contributed to be treated the exact same, then you could be setting your treasury token multiplier to be the same as your utility token multiplier. But if you want them to be treated differently, you can change your multipliers for how you want them to be relating to each other. So you get to set those initial relationships. And you can tweak all of this stuff later on as you start to understand a little bit more how it works. The next step is you can set salary bands. So if you want to simplify compensation in your organization and say, hey, we have 15 different levels of pay that you can earn in our organization, or there's only 1 level, or there's 3 levels, you can set those levels here, and you can come in and set what the value is in dollar terms and how many utility, treasury, and voice tokens those different bands are going to earn. This is very similar to how most of the major tech companies run, where they have payment scales too. So you can mirror those, or you can come up with some new ones for your community. Either way, this is where you set them. Finally, you get to do your own design if you'd like. So you can set, you can grab a template that we already have, or you can come over here and do fully custom yourself, upgrading your logo, going and making it just the way you would like it to be. And that's it. So once you've set up your organization, then you're going to go to an organization page that looks just like this. So now we're going to go over the organization landing page. So this is as new people show up to your organization, this is what they would see. So you can come here and see all the different active assignments. Assignments are the different roles that people are filling in your organization. So for example, if you have a gardener role because you're a village organization, then you can see that 15 people are holding that gardener role. And this is where you're able to come and find that information. You can see all the different active quests that are going on. A quest is, hey, we're a village organization, and every tree that you plant, we're going to pay you 100 of our community tokens. And that could be a standing quest. So as people show up to your community, they can click here and explore all the different quests, ways that they can contribute to your organization and to your cause, to your community. You can see all the different recent payouts, so what people are getting paid for and what. So this is how all of our organizations are fully transparent. We're showing the world what we're doing, how we're spending money, why they can trust us. And this is really powerful because if we create an ecosystem of organizations that are acting in this trusted way, then when institutions and organizations that want to fund change, they can come to us and say, wow, we can really trust this movement. We can see how they're paying people. We know that if we give them $100 million, they're not just going to buy Ferraris or whatever. Right, and that's really critical for establishing trust. the community and the world and everyone we're working with, and that's why we're setting it up this way. So you can see all the payouts in the community. Then you can see all the different active badges. And again, badges are these things that hold different rights and authority. So for example, you might have a treasurer badge. And a treasurer badge gives you the right to access certain treasury funds that aren't on chain. So if they are, let me explain what that actually means. On chain meaning is your organization gets to control that directly. So funds that are on chain, you can control that says every member in our organization has to vote on whether or not these funds are going to get moved. Or 80% of the members have to vote or whatever. But you can have requirements that within your organization, you can get really clever about how you govern on-chain assets. But not everything that your community holds is on-chain. You might have off-chain stuff. For example, you might have cash in a bank account. And technically and legally, only 3 members have control over that bank account. Well, how do you decide on-chain which of those members should be part of that bank account? Well, you can have a badge that says you are our bank account holder badge. And if you have that badge, then you have rights to that bank account. And if that badge is removed from you, then the other 2 badge holders are obligated to remove you within the bank. And if you set those agreements up within your community, this is how the community then can govern those off-chain assets. But that's one example of a badge. You can have all sorts of different badges. For example, you can have a facilitator badge. And maybe this badge gives you more voice in your organization because you trust that someone who's doing a lot of facilitation in the ecosystem has a lot of wisdom on how the ecosystem might continue going forward and evolve. So let's give them more voice and more, voice in governance. So this badge gives you a 10x voice multiplier or whatever. So badges gives the power for communities to set up different rules like that. That's really, really powerful and fun. Anyway, then you can see recent strategies, and strategies they're like alignment proposals for how the ecosystem's moving forward, or what the ecosystem wants to focus on, or what the values of the community are, anything like that. So you can kind of see how is that organization moving forward. Then you can come over here and see the different archetypes that community is using, meaning what different base ways are there to communicate and contribute in that organization. So researching and architecting, for example. So you're like, yes, this is what I like to do. I like to understand complex systems and do a lot of research and understand those systems and how they work. Oh, so I'm a researcher and an architect. Let me see what roles they have available for people like me. Or I'm a storyteller, or I'm a builder, etc. So these are different base layers to help people understand where they can go and look for different ways to contribute to that organization. You can, at the top right here, you can actually see the treasury of that organization. So you can see how many of their organization tokens are out there and how many that organization owns. You can see how much dollars that organization is holding on to. You can see how many seeds, if they're using that currency, they're holding on to, and more. So you can click here and see all the different tokens they're holding. Policies. So this is how you see the different policies of the organization. And a policy is an agreement amongst the members on different maybe ways they want to behave. So this is our communication policy, and this is how we choose to communicate within our community. Or this is our governance policy, and this is how we make decisions because we make decisions this way or whatever. So this is all the stuff you want new members to understand about your organization, and it's tracking the governance of that. So you get to click on the policy, see what it was, see how many people voted, and all of that fun stuff. So let's come back here. Then you can come down here and you see badges. And you can click on the badge, you can see what the badge does, if it has any different multipliers. So in this case, it's saying people holding this badge are going to get 15% more pay, 15% more utility tokens, and 15% more voice, along with 15% more seeds. So in either case, they're getting 15% more pay if they're holding on to this badge. And you can see actually when the badge was voted in, you can see the conversation about that badge when it was getting set up. You can participate in that conversation, etc. So let's come back down to here. You can see the different circles. Whoops. Let me bring it back here. Did not mean to click on that. Yeah, and this is the working prototype that we're building right now. So a lot of this stuff actually already works. So you can come and see the circles. So for example, anchor circle, communication, financial, and circles are the different kind of departments within the organization. And every circle gets their own treasury to manage. So this is how the whole ecosystem can actually decide how to move forward in a more of a meta sense. So I can explain that. Is then the whole ecosystem can say how they're going to spend funds to each one of the circles. So this is the basic way of coordinating as an ecosystem. They can say we have $100 million across our ecosystem. Let's give, 10% of that to the anchor circle. And the anchor is what's coordinating and facilitating the whole thing. So it's really necessary that it gets funded. But then we get to decide, do we want to focus on communication this season, or do we want to focus on welcoming in new people? Or do we want to focus on building the tools, etc.? So what do we want to focus on this next season? So then as a whole ecosystem, they can decide how much of the whole budget each one of these circles gets, right? And the same model can be followed infinitely down and infinitely up. So then maybe within communication, there's, 15 other groups that are then deciding how to, separate the communication treasury that they just got, etc. So that process of fractaling down a treasury is then how you start coordinating as whole ecosystems using this technology stack, right? All right, so for the last little bit of this, let me walk you through actually participating in one of these organizations. So let's say I'm a member. I can come over here, I can see my profile. I can see all the different stuff that I'm doing, and I can claim pay if I have stuff to claim. So let me come here and claim some pay here. I can come down, I can see what it said that I was doing. I can see what my pay is. I can see the different periods that I'm gonna get paid for, and I can click here and claim all of my pay. But let me go back to my profile. Keep showing you around. I can come down here and see all the different organizations that I'm a part of and how many assignments I have active in those different organizations. I can see all the different tokens I'm holding across my organizations. I can see what my other addresses are for, non-chain, but other blockchain assets. So I could have my Bitcoin wallet here, my Ethereum wallet, etc. Hypha's been doing this. We've been paying out in Bitcoin and EOS and Ethereum with non-Telos assets for a while. So any community that's holding, their treasuries in Bitcoin and stuff can use this organization structure to govern and then still hold their assets in other chains if they would like to do that. And it's something we've been doing. You can see the different badges that I'm holding, a little description about who I am, and all the different votes across the whole ecosystem. So that's a little bit about me, and you can see everything going on here. I am not Franz, in case you didn't know. Then I can come down here and I can do some new proposals. So we have three main types of proposals. One-time activity. So this is the traditional DAOs that we know. Like, hey, I did X, I want to get paid Y. Very basic. This is kind of a catch-all. You have a recurring activity. So recurring activities might be role assignments. So there's a role that's a storytelling role. I'm going to fill that 30%. Then this is a role assignment. And then I can get paid a set payment for every period that I'm holding that role. So this helps organizations get more structure and have people who are, paid full time. But what's also really powerful about a role assignment is they only last a certain period. So within our structure, we've set it up that it lasts 3 months. But maybe your organization says, every role assignment only lasts for 2 weeks, and then everyone has to agree whether they're going to fill that role again. Because maybe we don't have a lot of trust in our community, and we don't want people to, get into a role and then just actually do nothing. And we don't want to have a police force, making sure people are doing what they say they're doing and any of that annoying stuff. So we're just going to have roles expire every 2 weeks. And then give people these, 2-week work stints if we want. Or we have a lot of trust in our community and we think that's way too much overhead and we don't want to do that. And we want our roles to last, 1 year at a minimum. And we're only going to, redecide every year if we're going to keep working with each other. However you decide to do it as a community, this role assignment role process allows you to start experimenting with that and find out what works for your community. Same thing with badges. We don't want someone to be a treasurer and then they just disappear off the face of the earth and we can't find them and we don't know what to do. So we say, okay, your treasurer badge is only going to last 3 months at a time. And then every 3 months, the community needs to re-agree that, yep, we trust you still. You're still an active member of the community. We're going to give you this right and responsibility again. So that's, badges within communities and recurring expenses. So any costs or anything like that you want to pay on an ongoing basis. Yep. Then you have the organization assets itself. So this is how groups can start with absolutely nothing, but then go through a predetermined governance process to create their organization. So maybe your organization, if you didn't use a template, starts with no circles. So in order to create a circle, you actually have to come here and click on the circle creation process and go through it, right? But we're not going to do that. So let me take you back. Or a strategy for the organization. So a proposal that says, hey, let's move in this direction instead of that direction, or whatever. However your community goes about making strategic decisions, you can use this process to do that. Same thing with policy decisions. Let's change how we communicate, or let's change one of our organization policies about becoming a member or anything like that, right? Then we can set up different types of role archetypes. So that's what I was sharing before. And an archetype is a combination of what are you doing in a general sense and how much are we going to pay you for it. And it's a process to really simplify answering those questions so that when contributors show up to your community and they want to participate, they can much more easily identify what route they go down to participate and contribute to your cause. So setting up archetypes is the process of doing that. So you can come in here and say what the archetype's name is, the main purpose, its accountabilities, a description of what it's supposed to do. Then you can come down here and set the compensation for that archetype. So you can say, this is actually going to be a band 2 or a band 1. So remember when you set up your organization, you were able to set different bands. Hypha did it at complexity levels. It said we have 7 different levels of complexity of contributions within Hypha. Starting off at the very basic, where it's the simplest task. There's no complexity. You know exactly what needs to get done and how to do it. So that we would call that a band 1 complexity. All the way up to band 7 complexity, which they're the ones that are creating the new conditions for more roles and more complexity to emerge from. So they're the ones that are creating and generating organization structure and content and moving things forward and creating new possibilities. It's the highest complexity role within the ecosystem. And then, of course, there's 5 other bands that get you there. But organizations can choose whatever model works for them, so they can simplify the process of creating paid roles in the organization. Otherwise, and groups can do this too, how Hypha started off is we set it up so that people would do fair market value for that role. And then what we ended up having was there's 150 different ways that you can get paid. It got super confusing and complex, and it started slowing us down. And we are having way too many conversations around, does that role actually get paid $175,000 or should it be $170,000? But this role's $165,000, so how does that compare? And way too much time was wasted talking about how much something should get paid. So that's why we simplified it into this band structure, so that we can say, okay, there's 7 different levels of complexity. Where does that role fit in that complexity scale? Okay, that's how much they're paid. And we felt this was a very fair and egalitarian way of going about it too. But anyway, all of this is a tool that you as a community, you can find out whatever process works best for you. Okay, so what else about the archetype is you can choose how much is deferred, meaning how much of this role's pay are they going to have to take up front versus deferred later. And what deferred means is how much are we going to pay you in dollars versus how much are we going to pay you in the organization's compensation tokens, right? So this is kind of like how much are we going to pay you in cash out of the treasury versus how much are we going to pay you in organization equity. So some roles you might say, you know what, this was a nice to have role. It would be great if we had this, but we have no money for it. So we're going to say that this role has to take pay 100% in organization tokens. And there might be people out there that that's exactly what they want. They have plenty of cash, but they want to contribute to a cause they care about. Of course, they want to be acknowledged for that contribution. So this is a perfect role for them. They're saying, yeah, I'm totally happy getting paid 100% in organization tokens because I also believe in that organization and I would love to earn tokens. Perfect. So this is a way for then communities to start compensating creators of their communities without having to pay them out of their treasury. Or the inverse is also true. This role is really important. This is why we raised money. Maybe that's the person actually building the product. And we can say, you know what, you can take 100% of your pay up front. You don't have to defer anything if you don't want to. Then you can put it at 0%, right? So this is a way for communities to be more tangible in how they're managing their treasury and how they can have an infinite treasury at the same time, because you always have the power to mint and issue new organization tokens. Unless, of course, you don't want that power and you chose not to have that. Again, all of this is up for you to kind of, choose your own adventure and create your own organization. All right, we're going to go back to proposals for one more second to show you. All right, so then when we have one-time activity, I was just going to walk you through just a couple of those and what that looks like. One is a bridge. So this is if you're doing contributions, you didn't claim anything, and then you got into a role later, you could come back and say, hey, actually, I was working between this time and I wasn't paid. It's something that we noticed came up, and now we created a proposal type for it. Same thing with standard expenses. You can have a quest proposal. So a quest is a standing object that says, I think as a community, we should have a quest to pay $5 for people who go through our YouTube video and transcribe it, or whatever, something simple like that. You can set up a title for it, a description, how much you want to pay for that, if everyone who does that quest, and then put it up as a quest. So that's a one-time thing. You set that quest up. And maybe this quest is going to go on forever, and you can establish that if you would like to. Then, simultaneously, the people who complete that quest can come here and do their quest completion form. So they're like, okay, I did go and do this thing. So I can actually look at which one of the quests I did, click on that one, and then I go down and say, yes, I did it. I can put in the attachment and prove that I did it and go through and claim my pay. So sometimes with quests, you actually give the right to the person who completed the quest to choose how much they want to get paid up front versus how much they want to get deferred. Or you can set that up front, where you say you have to get paid, 50% in dollars and 50% in Hypha tokens or your org tokens. Or you can do it that when they're claiming it, they say, actually, I want to take 100% in Hypha tokens, or I want to take 100% in dollars, or whatever, right? So this is a way for you to be able to establish quests and pay people out in novel ways. All right. I'll take you through a few more things, and then we'll close it out today, rounding this video off. All right, so we're right back to the other way of looking at the Hypha dashboard, or your organization's dashboard, and you can come up here to the top. So this is where you get to really start tweaking your organization and how things work. And how we're going to have it is that you can come up here and make a suggestion to choose some of these, to change some of the dials here, and that would make a proposal. That's a policy proposal that goes for voting, and then if it passes, then it updates the settings to what you changed them to. So this is where you get to go through and make some tweaks. So let's look at voice control, for example. So voice is the governance token within your organization. So you get to choose kind of the parameters for how this governance token works. So there's a decay rate. You can have it so that voice decays, meaning when you're holding on to it, it slowly ticks down. Why you might want this? Well, this is how you pass voice from people who contributed in the past and long ago to people who are contributing today. So it's how kind of authority continues to move to the people who are most contributing at any given point. And you get to choose how quickly or slowly you want this transition to happen. Do you want it to be really responsive so that it's only looking at people who have contributed in the last month and they're the ones that have the absolute most voice? Or do you want it to be kind of a slow transition, so it takes kind of 10 years maybe for that passing of the voice to occur? It's up to you. Or you can make it so it doesn't decay at all. But why we recommend decaying is because someone can contribute a lot at one period and then completely disappear and have no idea what's going on with the organization. Do you still want to have them being able to have the same weight in decision making? Or do you want that to kind of wane so that if they do leave the project and they don't really know what's going on anymore, that they're not still holding on to a lot of voice that could potentially wreck the project or what typically ends up happening is people who are contributing most active in the moment are fearful that some people holding a lot of voice that are disconnected from the project might make poor decisions. And that actually stops them from contributing more to the project based on that fear. So these control panels helps you play with that a little bit more. So we're going to go down and talk a little bit more about voting. So voting is how you get to choose what type of governance process you're using to move things forward for various circles. So you can actually choose, each circle can choose their own governance process. So tweaking Quorum and Unity is how you kind of do all of this. So for example, Unity is how many people have to be in support of a proposal in order for it to pass. So if you want a consensus organization where everyone has to be for something, then you're going to have Unity at 100%. So you're going to pull your dial up to 100. If you want it to be consent so that, some people can block it, but there's a certain threshold for how much, what blocking threshold you actually want passed, then you can have Unity at, say, 95% and be okay with 5% blocking before it actually fails. So this is how you're able to kind of control that. If you want traditional democracy, you can drag it down to 50% and have it be majority rule, right? And then quorum is how many people in your organization have to participate in a vote in order for it to pass. So again, if you want consensus where everyone has to show up and say yes, then you're going to have quorum at 100% and Unity at 100%. But then you're able to pull it down and choose any percentage. So if you're saying, well, actually, if 80% show up, that's good enough for us. Or if 20% is enough, or whatever. So tweaking Quorum and Unity is how you're able to choose from a wide number of different organization styles and way of moving forward. And we want to build completely new and novel different voting strategies too. And we plan to, and those things we'll call, coordination apps and different plugins that communities can use. So we're just starting with this. This is the basis, but it's an infinite playground once we move into digital organizations, because we can just as easily have a new box that's a completely new way of doing governance that we can coordinate and mediate through this technology, right? Then you can change those compensation settings like we were saying before, where you can change how much voice and equity they're getting and what the pay scales are, etc., etc. Same thing with managing your treasury and activity. We're not going to get too much into these details. We'll do that after we launch, but it's just to let you know that these organizations are meant to be hyper customizable. That's our goal. That's what we're working towards. And that's what you're stepping into when you start building your organization with this tool set, is this ability to really start experimenting with radically new ways of organizing and coordinating groups of people. All right, so just we'll quick show you a little bit more of this before we close it out for today. Is you can come here and you can see all the different proposals that are happening in an organization. So you can see what their Unity threshold is, what their quorum threshold is real quick. So as you come to different organizations, you're like, oh, they're set at 100, they're a consensus-based organization. Or, they're set at 50-50, they're traditional democracy or whatever, right? And you can come here and see what they're doing, and then you can come and see all the different proposals, what they are, what people are doing, what the conversation is, who's voting, and all that fun stuff. So this is how groups are able to then showcase what they're doing as an organization to the world, and everyone can come see it. Then you can come and see who's part of the organization, what badges people are holding, what groups they're part of, and all that stuff. And have a couple different filters and way of seeing and viewing it all. Anyway, so that's basically what's coming. And the next Hypha DAO release is that ability to build and set up your organization, then come here and run your organization. And start distributing tokens out to your shared cause and making decisions together and coordinating and getting things done. So that's what Hypha is all about, is coordination and helping very practically organize our movements to start accomplishing our shared goals. One of the biggest shared goals we're working towards is the regeneration of our Earth and planet right now. So we would really love this technology to help groups locally coordinate the regeneration of their communities. We can't sit around and wait for nation states to get their act together because it doesn't seem like they're going to. So we just need to start acting and coordinating and start regenerating our communities. Let's build an organization, start paying people to go out there and plant trees, clean up our waterways, start regenerating our communities and doing the real work that just needs to get done to build a more beautiful world. And then we could start issuing tokens. And then when, institutions and change makers, they want to fund change, then they can just start funding these organizations because we're out there doing it, not just talking about it. And then we can not spend so much time, focused on fundraising within each of our organizations, or wasting all this time deciding how we decide and running through very basic governance questions that could have been answered if we had some more beautiful templates for people to step into, right? So that's, again, why when we come here, this is something huge for us to continue to work on as a community, is creating really beautiful templates that are effective coordination and organization styles that help people get out of the old paradigm of thinking of how to coordinate. So it helps us break down that pyramid structure that we know is not effective and move into more organic, organism-like structures that help us start coordinating in much more effective, more beautiful ways. So this is what we're building this technology to do. We would love for you to join us on this journey. Hypha itself is a DAO, so all the organizations that show up and start contributing to this cause, building new coordination apps, there's a way for you to get paid in the Hypha token for doing that. So if you're a builder out there, if your organization is working on something similar to this, let's figure out how to coordinate together and start collaborating and moving as one ecosystem. Because that's what we really need to figure out how to do, is collaborate across organizations in order for us to really serve this transition. A new civilization kind of requires that we start organizing and coordinating more effectively across our ecosystems. So that's what we also really hope to accomplish with this tool set, is by bringing all of our organizations in a shared space where we can start sharing tokens amongst each other, sharing role ideas, start filling roles in multiple organizations seamlessly. Then we start collaborating a lot more effectively across organizations, which is where we're headed to today anyway. And then it looks like there's 5 organizations that get together to set up one role for a lawyer. And instead of each one of them going and paying a premium to, get a part of a lawyer, we all just collaboratively hire one lawyer for our ecosystem, right? And again, these tools allow us to start doing that collectively and facilitate that and make it a little bit easier and joyful for us to do that. Right, so this is where I'll leave it. This is showcasing a little bit about what we're up to, what we're building, and I felt like it was way beyond time for me to make this video and stop putting it off. So here it is. Let me know if you have any feedback. Happy to make version 3 of this, answering any questions that you have. Put the questions in the comments below, and I'll use that as the basis and guide for the next video coming forward. So this was great. It was incredible going over this. I'm really, as you can tell, excited for this technology to come out. Because selfishly, we've been building this because we wanted this. We're like, great, we know we need to transition to civilization right now. How do we do this? How do we best serve us? How do we coordinate? So we didn't actually start out being like, hey, DAOs are popular, let's build a DAO builder. We're just saying we want to be a DAO. There's not technology out there to serve us. And that kind of it was kind of funny, because I remember when we were getting started, I'll leave you with this story. We actually thought we were just going to dissolve Hypha. We were like, yeah, we'll build these, DAO tools. We'll make it so we can distribute our treasury. But, it's really all about setting up seeds. And, we probably won't, do anything with this DAO tech. But then 3.5 years later, after we built this incredible product, we're like, wait, actually, this makes sense. So that's also to let you know why it took so long for us to get this multi-tenant bit up and going so that other organizations can create their own, is because we weren't actually planning on doing that. We just wanted to build a DAO for ourselves. But anyway, it's been an incredible journey. That's the power of DAOs, is when you set one up, it kind of takes a life of its own. So we're kind of already a living story of how powerful this new coordination technology is to create value for the world and help people get things done. So it's been fun sharing this with you all. I look forward to building new organizations. And if you would like to be part of the process to build a DAO, look into the link below, and there's a form there that you can apply. And see you all in the metaverse. Cheers, y'all.